So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the PsySSA Student Division today. We're very excited to bring you our first Ask Us Anything webinar of 2021. It is a webinar series, and we host these webinars frequently to cover different fields and topics of psychology and to provide followers and members with the accessibility to guest professionals, to registered counselors, psychometrists, and psychologists within various different fields. Today, we're covering registered counselling and psychometry, and we have got Ms. Marguerite Bergman, who is a registered psychometrist and owner of Bergman Career Consulting. Marguerite also, yay, that's recent. Congrats. Marguerite is also the Student Division's treasurer, and she's the executive portfolio holder of the Frequently Asked Questions Subcommittee. And we have Ms. Josephine Padarath, who is the chairperson of the Frequently Asked Subcommittee, FAQ, Subcom of the Student Division. Josephine is a registered counsellor with the HPCSA and will be addressing all of your RC questions today. My name is Genevieve. I'm the vice-chairperson of the SD. Very excited to have you here, and just to give you a little bit of housekeeping in the beginning, I'm going to keep you all muted while Marguerite and Josephine go through all of your questions. As you know, we requested your questions beforehand. They will address the questions. We got quite a few repeat questions, so I do think any questions you might have while they're addressing them will be covered anyway. Once they've addressed all of the questions, if there is time, we'll open the floor for more conversation and discussion. Please post your questions in the chat forum, or you can raise your hand. I will also post links to our Facebook and Instagram pages for when the YouTube video is available. In addition, the National Mentorship Program is taking applications at the moment for mentors and mentees. So please visit our social media and submit your applications by the 15th of February. Student Division membership is open at the moment, and we are running a membership competition. So there are fantastic prizes that you will stand in line to win if you register with SD or renew your membership. We also have in attendance the chairperson of the PsySSA Student Division, Mohammed Yaish Kasim. Welcome, Mo. Thank you for joining us today. Mo is also the executive portfolio holder of the mentorship program. So thank you so much, everyone, and SD execs for being here today on a Friday. We're very excited to get started, and I'll hand it over to you, Marguerite and Josephine.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So the first question is, can I get a job with my BA degree in counseling? So Josie, I'll just say from my experience, yes, you can get a job. You have a degree. You cannot get a job as a psychologist or as a counselor. You need to be registered with the HPCSA for that. So the follow-up question is, if not, what course should I continue doing in order for me to qualify as a counselor? So either you're going to have to do your counseling through Pearson's or what's the other one, Josie?
SA-CAP.
Yeah, PsyCap, to become a counselor, or you're going to have to do honors and then a master's in order to become a clinical psychologist or a counseling psychologist, or you're going to have to do a post-honors in psychometry to become a psychometrist. Or you can also at UCT now do a master's in neuropsychology. So that is the summary. With a BA degree in counseling, yes, you can get a job. You can't get a job as a psychologist. It's a much longer road than just that. Josie?
Yeah, so I had the same answer. So you can get a job with your BA degree. You can't do much in terms of counseling work, but there's things that you can do unrelated to counseling. And then for the second question as well, the same as Marguerite, the question was, if not, what can I continue doing in order for me to qualify as a counselor? And there as well, to be involved in the counseling field, you can go through it 3 ways. So either you do your BA undergraduate and then you do your honors equivalent and then you register with the HPCSA as a registered counselor, or you do your Bpsych and you register with the HPCSA as a registered counselor, or you do your undergraduate, your honors equivalent and then register with the HPCSA as a registered counsellor.
Okay, cool. The next question is, where can I volunteer with my degree? So volunteer places are quite nice. I'm based in Johannesburg. Josie is also based in Johannesburg. So to give you an idea, in most of the big provinces, you can volunteer at SADAG and Lifeline. So those are online counselling that you can do. So they train you and then you can volunteer there. I also volunteered after my honours year. I volunteered at JPCCC in Johannesburg. So Johannesburg Parent and Child Counselling Centre, where they train you and then you literally go to schools and you do counselling there. And then I also worked at Headways. So we worked with traumatic brain injury patients. So I first started out as a group facilitator, and then I started running groups, and then I started counselling in person and telephonically. So those are a few of them. You can easily just type into your search engine volunteering in South Africa, or in whichever province you are. The second thing is we are releasing a very nice booklet one of these days that are going to have a lot of volunteer opportunities in it. And then PsySSA is also working with someone based in Gauteng who we might pair up with and kind of get volunteer opportunities from them. So that's the easy answer. Josie, I know you've also done volunteering. So yeah.
Okay, so with the volunteer work, you can volunteer at any organization locally. That would be my best advice, to look locally within your communities and see which organizations need assistance. You can't do volunteer work that's directly related to counseling, but they may need assistance with other aspects within their organization. SADAG and Lifeline do telephonic counseling, and they do offer you training before you start volunteering for them. And then just to remember that volunteering can be very tricky, so just to be ethical when you do volunteer. And then if you look at the SD social media pages, there's also a lot of volunteer positions opened up in the student division. I think the latest one was the community development one, which closes, I think, today. But we also have the mentorship program as well, which is sort of a volunteering position as well.
Yes, so I think it's important to look at. Sorry?
And the Gauteng representative.
Oh, okay. But yes, so we have a community development subcommittee within the student division, and we have a lot of projects that we run there. So you are more than welcome to give us pop us an email there, and then you can become involved with our community development subcommittee as well. So I hope that answers your question. The next question we got is, what are the opportunities I can expose myself into in order for me to grow emotionally, mentally, and intellectually in the psychology field? So the first thing that I can tell you is the mentorship program that the student division offers. So both Josephine and I have been part of the mentorship program for 2 years now, in different capacities. Josephine has been a mentor, I have been a mentee, and I've been a junior moderator. And I can tell you that it really, really expands your knowledge of everything. It helps you grow. It's really just an amazing experience. I had an amazing mentor, and you get to network with people. You learn so much. So that's the first thing that I would really, really encourage people to do, is to apply for the mentorship program, because emotionally, mentally, and intellectually, it really stretches you and you learn so much. The next one I would do is to volunteer. I think volunteering helps you a lot to just kind of get a feel for what it's like to be a counselor or whatever, before you go into a course or master's program and you find out after that, wow, I really don't like this. So doing volunteer work also really helps with that. But I mean, the mentorship program is absolutely amazing. I don't think this year we're going to have a congress, an in-person congress, but my other a recommendation that I would give is that if there's an in-person congress anytime, so PsySSA has a congress every year, volunteer there, because it's an invaluable experience. You learn so much, you get to network with so many people. So that's how I would go about it. Josie.
Okay, so emotionally, I would advise any form of self-reflective process, any form of courses that you can do based on personal growth. Academically, the same as Marguerite, I would advise for you guys to check out the mentorship program, because you can expand yourself so much academically and mentally and emotionally through the program. And then something that's also very important for you, if you're looking to go into registered counseling or into becoming a psychologist at some point, is to go to therapy as well. Therapy or counseling for yourself. That will help you grow incredibly emotionally and mentally and personally.
Yes, yeah, and I think also we oftentimes, I mean, we're not able to shadow a psychologist because of, you know, those kind of
ethical,
you know, yeah. So being in counseling yourself, you get a feel of what it's like. Okay, the next question we got is, how do I qualify to register with the HPCSA? So we did touch on this. So to be registered with the HPCSA, you either need to be a registered counsellor like Josephine. So she did her undergraduate degree and then she did her BPsych in counselling, like Josie. So that's how you become
BPsych, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you become a counsellor, to become and register with the HPCSA. So there are different categories. You can become a counsellor, you can become a psychometrist, you can become a clinical psychologist, you can become a counselling psychologist, you can become a neuropsychologist. And there's also forensic psychology, but it's not really very defined in South Africa. So they're still working on it. So in order to register with the HPCSA, the very first thing you need is either a BPsych or a master's. Those are the only two ways, basically, that you can register with the HPCSA. Josie, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. So we get this question a lot in the FAQ, and it comes through all the time. How can we register with the HPCSA? And I'm just going to read out the explanation that I offer to the students. So to register with the HPCSA, like Marguerite explained, you need to complete your honors degree in psychology. This means that you must have done your undergrad in psychology first. To also register with the HPCSA, you have to do a 720-hour or 6-month practicum. This also has to be accredited with the HPCSA, and there's a lot of misunderstanding, which I'll explain in the next question about that. If you don't do your BA and then do the honors equivalent, the other option is to do the BPsych, which comes with your honors equivalent. So the difference between the two is your BA undergrad will be 3 years, and then you'll do a separate BPsych equivalent, which will be 1 year and 6 months, and the BPsych is just a 4-year program. Once you have this honors degree with the practicum, you then can apply to write your board exam with the HPCSA, where you would then register as a registered counsellor. For psychometry, I think it works similar, if I'm not mistaken, but you need to do the 6-month practicum as well.
Yes. Yeah. So you do that, and in between you go to classes. So that's what you're going to have to do. And then obviously when you're finished, you need to write your HPCSA board exam in order to get accredited. So that's how you get qualified with the HPCSA. So it's quite a long process. Josie, where can I apply for internships for the psychology field?
Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So there's a misunderstanding that once you do your honors, you can then apply to do internships, get 720 hours, and then register with the HPCSA. So this information is not true, because your practicum, your 720 hours, needs to be done through an accredited institution. So if you're looking at an internship that does not count towards those 720 hours or 6-month practicum, then you can look at volunteering, which we spoke about before. But if you are looking to do an internship, you have to go through an accredited institution first, somewhere that's accredited by the HPCSA, and you have to do the Bpsych equivalent. You can't just do the 6 months, even if you do have an honors degree already. You still have to do another year, because the Bpsych honors is different from the BA honors.
Yes, and I think, so I've spoken to the HPC a lot about this, because the document is very confusing. It makes it seem like when you have an honors, if you can just get an internship placement, then you can become a psychometrist or a registered counselor, and it's not true. You need to work through an institution. And then if you're looking just in general for an internship, in South Africa, we don't really have internships for after doing honors or whatever. That's not really a thing in our country. So that's unfortunately where it is, and that's where Josephine is right, that you need to go do some volunteer work, and that's going to be your best bet. Okay, so this was an interesting question. Yeah.
Sorry, just to interrupt, I've just posted a document in the chat forum with a list of HPCSA accredited universities and institutions. To all of our participants, please double check, because this document is from 2018, but you can base a few of your questions off that, about various universities and institutions that offer Bpsych. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Jane. Then we got this question. So where can I do a course in mediation, in family law qualification, and in trauma incident reduction therapy? So Josie, I think you might be better equipped to answer this question.
Yes. Okay. So firstly, I just wanted to explain a qualification in mediation in family law, what it can be used for. So basically, if you do this qualification, you can qualify to mediate cases in family law. You can work as a professional mediator, and you can design child contact schedules, navigate court processes. It is more on the forensic side, in a sense. Courses can be completed online, and it can be done through an organization called the Mediation Academy. And you can find them on social media, and you can find them on the internet as well. Then the TIR. So TIR is traumatic incident reduction, and it is a method or technique that's used in counseling to reduce trauma or stress experienced emotionally or physically from painful past events. And TIR training needs to be done by an accredited trainer, and it's usually hosted during a workshop. So you do like a 4-day workshop and training as well. And there are a few trainers in South Africa, and how you can find the trainers is you can look online on the Applied Meta Psychology website, or if you Google TIR training or trauma incident reduction training. I think there's only 3 accredited trainers in South Africa currently.
Awesome. And then Josie, this one's also for you. Does the Pearson Institute still offer practical counseling training and placement?
So no, Pearson has discontinued this program. However, Cornerstone still offers it, as well as SACAP. And as Jen mentioned, she did post the list of accredited universities by the HPCSA, and some of those on the list do still offer the Bpsych.
Awesome. Okay, so what advice would you give students who will be applying for the psychometry program at UJ? So the very important thing with psychometry is the first thing you do is that you fill in a application form, and that's going to be crucial. It's crucial because what they do is they look at those application forms, and then they get people in. So that's the first method of judging where you need to be and what you need to, those kind of things. So what's really, really important is that you get across in that application why you want to do this. And your why must be very, very strong. They can see if you are not passionate about this, if this is just something that you are considering to do. You need to really, really tell them, this is why I want to do psychometry. So we were 35 in a class, and they get thousands and thousands of applications. So that's the advice I would give you. And then what did the selection process for psychometry entail? So I just want to discuss this with it. So we sent in our paper application. Then they looked at it and invited some of us for that we actually did some psychometric tests. So it was mostly the GRT2, which is basically testing your fluid intelligence. So that's what we did. I do know that previous years, they did have interviews. We didn't go through an interview process. I don't think the new blocks went through an interview process because of COVID. So that's why your paper application is super important. And then they asked, how can you best prepare for the selection tests? So that is the psychometric test. You can't prepare for it. They go on what your fluid intelligence is, what you know and what you don't know. So you can't really prepare for it. It is what it is. And then we got a question regarding the course required for registering as a psychometrist. I understand that one requires psychological assessment course in honors. If one did not take the module, are there occasional other courses offered? And if yes, at which universities and what paths can you take? Okay, so the first thing that I do want to mention is that this is at UJ. At UJ, you need to have had psychometry as an honors subject in order to qualify for doing psychometry, okay? At Stellenbosch, it's different. At Stellenbosch, you need to do a few industrial psychology undergrad modules in order to be able to go into psychometry. So they are different. They don't care. They want you to do the industrial psychology. So you first need to complete some of those modules. If you're applying to UJ and you did not have psychometry as an undergraduate, as an honors subject, my advice would be to just go to your university and say, listen, I want to take the subject, just this one module. I didn't take it in my honors year. I want to take it now. So we did have someone, and I was an honors, who did that with a certain subject. So just approach a university and be like, I would like to complete the subject, and it can be added to your academic record, and then you can qualify to become eligible to apply for psychometry. So that would be my advice in this situation. It's really, really important to go look at what the different requirements are at the different universities. Because as I've said, Stellies doesn't accept only that you had psychometry as an honors. They want you to complete certain industrial psychology subjects, undergrad subjects. Okay, then we also had a question of funding. So specifically pertaining to UJ, but this is at most of the institutions, there is no funding available for psychometry. The reason is that it's considered a short course, so there's no bursaries or funding or anything. Most of the internships are unpaid. So it's basically you are studying for another year, or another 6 months. So there is no funding. You can't get a bursary or anything like that for it. Unfortunately, I've questioned and queried a lot about it. So unfortunately, there's no funding. You're going to have to really save. What I did is I started a GoFundMe page, and that helped a lot. So yeah, unfortunately, there's no funding available. Jen, so we are done with the questions that we received.
Okay.
would you like us to go to the chat? I did see him there. They did come some things through, or okay. Right. Do you have a school where students can do their honors and masters? So that's Jen did send that accredited university doc. That's why where you would get it. Okay, I know neuropsychology is a relatively new field. What would help with the master's application, especially regarding neuropsychology? Also, does neuropsych involve neuroscience research? So I think later in the year, we're going to have a neuropsychologist come speak to you guys. So I think let's leave that question for the experts to answer for you. I'll be completing my master's in industrial psych this year. I'm a registered psychometrist and have many years of work experience in HR. To become a registered industrial psychologist, I need to complete a 12-month internship, which is proving to be very difficult. Will I be allowed to do a 6-month practicum and become a registered counsellor? Unfortunately not. As Josephine said, you need to do that undergrad degree and then your BPsych or BPsych from the beginning. Is a BPsych equivalent a better option than a BA honours in psychological counselling? So this is a very interesting question. With a BPsych, you can go and work directly after you've studied. Okay, so if you do a BA in counselling, you can't go work as a counsellor directly. Josephine was able to start directly working as a counsellor because she did a BPsych. She is also eligible for applying for masters to become a clin psych or a counselling psychologist. And she did go through the interview process last year. So my opinion would be that it depends on what you want. If you want to start working directly after you've studied and, you want to start counselling, I would say do a BPsych. That's the best option for you to go, because with a BPsych, you can still apply for master's positions. Josephine?
Yeah, I agree with that. So, yeah.
I did also see something about UNISA, but I've now lost it. I don't know where it is. Okay, anyway. Jen, so do you want us to...
There was a question, do you know if an honours degree from UNISA in psychology is acceptable for psychometrist registration if the honours degree is inclusive of assessment as a module? That was the UNISA question.
Yes. So my colleague that worked with me did her honours at UNISA. Yes, it is acceptable.
Okay, we have a question about the difference between clinical psychology and counselling psychology. If you do get a job, what job can it be, and will it still be within the psychology field? I'm not sure what, Katlego, if you can clarify what you mean, the second part of your question. If you do get a job, what will it be? Whether you're a clinical psychologist or a counselling psychologist or a registered psychologist or a registered counsellor or psychometrist, you will be working in the psychology field with your HPCSA registration. Maybe you can clarify that second part, Katlego, if you're there.
I think she might have been kicked off.
Okay.
Not sure. Yeah, it looks like she wasn't there.
Could you possibly, Marguerite and Josephine, go through the difference between registered counselling and counselling psychology? Because there's a lot of confusion because they both have counsellor or counselling in them. There's confusion between the HPCSA registration categories, the different degrees, and the job prospects and the scope of practice. Thank you.
Josie, I think you start, and then if I add anything, because you are the counsellor, so.
Okay, so I think what I'll start with is just explaining a little bit about the registered counsellor scope of practice, because that's where the difference lies. So when you complete a master's and you go into clinical or counselling psychology, you then become a psychologist, and your scope is different from what a registered counsellor can do. So a registered counsellor, our scope is more limited in what we can do to help people. So a registered counsellor basically provides preventative developmental counselling services and interventions. We are allowed to screen and identify mental health challenges, but we're not allowed to diagnose. We are trained in a limited amount of psychometric assessments. There is a list of this on the HPCSA website, which we can administer. We are allowed to contain presenting difficulties, such as alleviating distress or working with trauma that has happened within a short amount of time, so more recently. We offer support and restoration of what's known as a normal level of functioning. And we are involved in psychoeducational and mental health promotion. We also are allowed to promote primary psychosocial well-being. And we work with different teams of people, and we also refer outwards to other professionals if we identify certain problems that are not within our scope of practice. So that is the main differences between what we can do and what psychologists can do. So psychologists have a more broad scope of practice. They're allowed to intervene with more serious issues. They're allowed to deal with things that are more long-term, trauma that's more long-term. So that's basically the main difference. I'm not sure if there's anything else.
Yeah, and they're also allowed to diagnose. The thing is, Josephine, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, are you allowed to claim from the medical aid?
Yes. So registered counsellors are allowed to. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, and I know that you are only allowed to work with a client for a certain amount of sessions before you need to refer them. Am I right?
There is a lot of debate around that one. So it depends what the issues are. So if it's presenting issues and it continues to present when you see clients, and you can work with them. But if it's something from a past issue, something that you're not allowed to work with or diagnose, like psychopathologies, for example, then you would have to refer, because essentially you're not helping the client.
Yeah, so I think what's important is that if you guys are unsure, please go on the HPCSA website and read through the scope of practice for each and every one of those things. Go through it and see what is this field allowed to do, what are they not allowed to do. Chantal.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm in my 4th year of the BPsych program this year, so hopefully by the end of the year I'll be a registered counsellor. But I really do want to continue with masters. So I was just wondering what the main difference is between clinical psychology and neuropsychology.
Okay, so neuropsychology is much more focused on identifying issues and working out an intervention program. So you won't necessarily sit with someone and counsel them. Whilst a clinical psychologist will identify the problem, and then they'll work through it with you. So a neuropsych would diagnose, they'll look at an intervention program, and they usually work in a multidisciplinary team. So they'll say, okay, they need to go to the occupational therapist for this, they need to go to the psychiatrist for this, they need to do this. So you won't necessarily do as much counseling as a neuropsychologist as you will as a clinical psychologist. I just want to add that neuro is very, very new in South Africa. So it's still a bit in the air. It's still a bit, unsure, but that's the main difference. So yeah, Chantal, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. If I can just add in for neuropsychology, so it's going to be in the booklet as well that Marguerite mentioned, because we did speak to someone who is in neuropsychology in South Africa. But from the interview that we had with this professional, he also just explained that neuropsychology is more focused on the brain functioning and cognitive functioning and how that affects the psychopathology that people experience or whatever issue they're having, whereas clinical psychology focuses mainly on behaviors and emotions in terms of therapy related to that psychopathology or the issue that the person's having.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are there
Anyone else?
Any other questions or comments? No.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so Marguerite and Josephine, maybe you can discuss your process to becoming a psychometrist, to becoming a registered counsellor. Well, no, what we also need to understand is that in this profession, whatever it is within, whatever the registration category is within the HPCSA or whatever direction you take, you do also, personality has got a lot to do with it as well. So what are the personal attributes that you would say would count in one's favor to get through this degree and to be able to work in this field? Because it's not for everyone. What do you find has helped you? Perseverance.
Perseverance.
I can do it.
Goodness. Yeah, you need to be passionate about this. You need to know this is what you're going to do, because it's not an easy field to be in. You are going to be rejected many, 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 many times. I can tell you that, because we are very under-resourced in South Africa, and you are going to have to be very, very, very persistent and committed. And you need to know, this is what I want to do. This is what I didn't want to do. I'm sure about this. So that's going to be very, very important. I think the other thing is that it doesn't even matter. I mean, I'm a psychometrist, so I more deal just with, results of psychological testing, while Josephine deals, with clients. But what I've learned is you're going to have to learn how to compartmentalize things, so you don't take it home with you. And that's where volunteering comes in very, very handy. So if I can tell you a little bit about my journey, I did my undergrad degree. I did a BSc Human Life Science in psychology with psychology at Stellenbosch. Then I did my honors in psychology at Stellenbosch. Then I moved back here. Then I worked for an autistic school. And then the year after that, I dedicated my whole year just to volunteering. So that's already 5-6 years after, now I just have that. Then last year I did my psychometry, wrote my board exam. Now I'm a psychometrist. So, I mean, it's been, how old am I? Wow, it's been 9 years now. And, so it's a very long process. It's not just like, finish this, blah, blah, blah. The thing with masters as well is that they want you to have experience. They want you to have experience. They want you to not just fresh-faced out of your honors, get there and do it. So it's really, really hard. And you're going to have to persevere. And you're going to have to make things happen for yourself. You're going to have to make them happen for yourself. You are going to have to, you can't just sit and someone's going to be like, oh, come work for me. You're going to have to send out CVs for days and apply everywhere for everything. So perseverance is really important. Josephine.
I agree.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I'm currently doing my BA psychology, and last year it was my last year. So would you suggest that I do the Bstyle equivalent, or should I do my honors? Which one should I go for, since I want to be a counselor?
If you want to be a counselor, I'll say Bstyle.
Yeah, so you have to do the Bstyle anyway. Yeah, so you're not going to be able to. Sorry.
Should I do my BPsych at UNISA, or should I do it with another university?
You can't do your BPsych through UNISA. So there's various different universities and institutions that offer the Bachelor of Psychology Honours or the BPsych equivalent program. I have posted a list of accredited universities and institutions in the chat. So if you scroll up, you'll find it there. But it's because it's a practical degree. Because your BPsych is your academic honors degree plus a 720-hour practicum, not all universities can accommodate that 720-hour practicum. UNISA many years ago, I think about 8 years ago, up until about 8 years ago, used to offer the BPsych equivalent, but they lost their HPCSA accreditation for that. And I know they have been trying to to work with the HPCSA to be able to offer the program again. But currently, it's the BPsych and BPsych equivalent is not something that's offered at every university, which I think is a very common misconception and misperception. So when students get into even third year of undergrad and realize that this isn't an honors degree or postgrad that's offered at their institution, there's a great deal of confusion around that. So my advice is to do your research and find out where you can do your BPsych. But if you want to be a registered counsellor, that is the path that you would need to follow. It's your BPsych equivalent.
All right, thank you.
So with an honors in psychology, you can't practice as a counselor. You can't do that. You need to do your BPsych. Okay. I see someone asked again about the about funding. Unfortunately, there's no funding opportunities for psychometry because it's a short course. So you're going to have to fund it yourself.
Okay. And Josie, in terms of your Toboko, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does answer my question, Genevieve. Thank you so much.
Great. And then, Zimi, you asked a question about funding. Does that answer your question? All right. Josephine, can you tell us a little bit about your path and your journey and how you became a registered counsellor? And also, is it worth it? It's a fight. It is. It's a struggle. We need to be real about this conversation and about psychology and counselling in South Africa. It's highly competitive. It's expensive. There's not a lot of positions. Practicums and internships are very difficult to come across.
Yes.
So if you can discuss your journey, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so I completed my BPsych with the University of Pearson, Pearson Institute of Higher Education, and they do not offer it there anymore. The BPsych degree, it was discontinued. I graduated, and obviously because it was a BPsych, it came with an honors equivalent, and I was able to immediately register the HPCSA afterwards as a registered counsellor, and then start working. And I know it sounds like it was just all smooth sailing, but it really wasn't. So is it worth it? So working in the field and working in the communities that I work in, I can definitely say that there is a need for registered counsellors, because not every person that we see who's going through any form of dysfunction or is experiencing any form of trauma needs to be seen by a psychologist, because sometimes the issue is presenting and it needs to be dealt with on a in a first line basis. So you are, as a registered counsellor, the first line of defense, in a sense, the first person to help somebody after a traumatic event if they have presenting issues. So there is a need for it, because there is so many psychosocial issues in South Africa that causes these kinds of traumas. There definitely is the need for it, but there's also the lack of opportunity within the field. So one thing that I have to say is you have to be willing to get your hands dirty. You have to be willing to do the work, but not just do the work, to look for the work, to look for the opportunities, to put yourself out there, which is not always easy. And also, you know, you need to walk into an environment or walk into a community and see what type of intervention needs to be done, and how you can help as a psychology graduate, how you can help as a registered counsellor. So whilst there isn't a lot of opportunities available for registered counsellors, it's also our responsibility to create those opportunities for ourselves, or to look for them within the areas that we work in. There's so much of need for psychoeducation, and like I said, that kind of like first line response. So you are going to have to, if you are passionate about this field, put yourself out there and find these opportunities, make the opportunities for yourself. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey, and that's what it's been about. In every single position that I've been placed in, or in any environment that I've been placed in, I always try and create the opportunity, look for how I can intervene with my scope of practice, even though it's very limited, and look at how we can basically better whichever community environment position that we're already in.
Thank you, Josie, because I think there's there's not much of a realization about how competitive it is until you get there or until you start doing your research. So Marguerite and Josie, as you've both said, you need to have that dedication. You need to be willing to send your CV one day after the next, and so I think if we can really just open up that conversation, which is what you've done, and pose the realities, then that's something that students will be able to use going forward in doing their research as well. One question that I'd like to ask both of you is, how is your involvement in the student division in FAQ in the mentorship program? Josie, this is your third year, I think. We're going into your third year?
Second.
No, second. No, weren't you a mentor the year before?
My mentorship is third year.
Yes, yes, it's your third year in mentorship, second year in FAQ. And Marguerite, you've been with the student division since 2019 as a mentee, and then you joined the executive committee and became the executive portfolio holder of FAQ as well. How is your experience with the student division in terms of networking, in terms of support, broadening your horizons, opening your mind, exposing you to the practicalities and praxis of psychology in South Africa? How has that benefited you?
Sorry, Josie, I'll just start. So I think in terms of being part of this community, firstly, you get to share your experiences with other people who are also like, oh my word, I want to give up, and they kind of motivate you and those kind of things. The second one is the valuable networks that you make here is amazing. You make such valuable networks. I've just started my psychometry business, and I've already had so many people tell me, please refer, please, tell us because we want to refer you. So that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing experience. And then just being a PsySSA member in general, the information that you get, the opportunities that you get, like the mentorship program, like being part of subcommittees, like taking part in the community development things. I mean, it's so valuable. And PsySSA also keeps you up to date with what is going on in the world. They keep you up to date of what's going on in the psych field, which is extremely important, especially if you're going to go for an interview as a counsellor, as a clin psych and those kind of things. They want to see that you know what's going on. And I think that's been it's been extremely valuable. Josie?
Yeah, I completely agree. Firstly, the amount of opportunities that the student division offers is absolutely amazing, and there's so much that you can do once you become involved in the student division. The networking as well, and like Marguerite mentioned, keeping up to date with what's relevant, that is so helpful. If it wasn't for the student division and having access to all these webinars and workshops that they have with various professionals, I honestly don't know if I would be updated on what's happening within the field of psychology. And it's so important. I'll just share something quickly. So last year when I was interviewing for my clinical masters, some of the questions that they asked me were related to things that were happening currently within the field of psychology. And at that time, PsySSA was hosting all sorts of workshops regarding these topics. And had I not attended those workshops, I probably would have not been able to answer some of those questions that they did ask. So you are exposed to a lot from the student division and PsySSA as a whole. And you meet people who are on the same level as you, and you meet people who are on different levels than you are. And it's really exciting to just be part of the community and to work with everybody and to be able to help others. But also, it's a good way to learn how to ask for help, because there's so many people that can help you. And there's so many people that know things that are completely different from what you know and have had different experiences within the same field. And everyone is so helpful, and everybody's willing to share with you their journey and to reach out to you and help you whenever you need it. And that's really important when you're in this field, just asking for help and having people who can support you and having people who you can turn to when you need information about anything.
Thanks, Josie.
I just quickly want to add, Jen, I just want to add that Josephine has been part of the PsySSA student division, and she's the FAQ chairperson, and she got through to master's interview. She was just waitlisted, so she was basically waiting for someone to fall out. And I got into my master's in clinical neuropsychology in the Netherlands. And this is all because of, I was able to connect with people in PsySSA in a way that they get to know me personally and on an educational basis, so they could write me recommendation letters. And that has really, really helped, especially with the mentorship program, because you get placed with a mentor that can write that letter for you or whatever. So it's not a coincidence that after joining PsySSA, these good things happen to you. It's really, there's a correlation between the two. And then Leanne, I see you are interested in the subcommittees. If you could maybe pop us an email, and what we can do is we can tell you all the subcommittees that there are, and you can decide which one you want to get involved with. Our website will also be launching soon, and we'll be describing every subcommittee there, and then you can also get involved there. So you can pop Jen, can she pop you an email?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, you can pop Genevieve an email, and she'll tell you all about the different subcommittees, what they are, and then you can decide which subcommittee you want to join. We have quite a few, and we are always looking for members who are passionate about psychology and about helping. So yes, Leanne will love to come to the FAQ. You want to be at the
Come to the mentorship program, Leanne. Yeah, mentorship program all the way. Not that we're a competitive team, we're very supportive of each other, but mentorship, Leanne.
You've got my application already.
One more time, we've got your application. There we go.
Oh,
You see.
They see.
I'm just putting it out there, FAQ. Some catching up to do, ladies. Just joking.
Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions?
So
Yes.
it's Leanne again. It's just to get more information about that. The subcommittees, I'm more worried about the time demands. Like, I don't want to take on too much, and then ironically enough, let my own self-care fall by the wayside. So the subcommittees, is it like a few hours a week? Is it a few hours a month? Is it a day a week? What are the time demands? That's more of my concern.
Leanne, are you in Cape Town?
No, I'm in Joburg.
No. I thought you were in Cape Town.
No.
Okay. Well, it depends. In terms of mentorship program, Marguerite, we covered this. She's already applied. In terms of the different subcommittees, it really depends. The mentorship program differs vastly. It also differs in terms of time factors between mentors and mentees. Whereas if you're involved in FAQ, if you're involved in media and marketing, community development, every subcommittee is autonomous. So we've got 11 different divisions at PsySSA. The student division is one of them. We like to think we're also the best, but anyway, I'm biased. And then within the student division, we've got various different subcommittees. So it's sort of a structure, and community development run, community upliftment, programs, initiatives, volunteering, fundraising, whereas FAQ, as Margarita and Josie have mentioned, they're working on this extraordinary booklet. They do a very different role within the student division. And then media and marketing, we keep everything updated on social media website. And then mentorship program is all about educating our mentees, educating students, providing a different type of experience. It is a volunteer program in that it's not part, so we get this question a lot, what does it mean that the mentorship program is a volunteer program? Well, for mentees, it means that it's not in your curriculum. It is not as a module or a program that is in your university curriculum that you have to complete. Therefore, you are volunteering to do this for the year. You're volunteering to take it on. And then, of course, with our mentors are postgraduate students, or they're qualified in the field of psychology. And for them, of course, it's voluntary. They're giving up their time. No one gets paid. They are dedicating their time and their resources to the mentorship program to assist the mentee. So it really depends on the subcommittee that you'd like to get involved in. It also depends on what you would like to do. Where we've also got research into student empowerment. So there's so many different subcommittees at the student division. And I would say really look for one that you would find the most fulfilling, that would give you the most sort of maximally beneficial experience, and that you would really enjoy. Because the thing is, when you're studying, when you're a full-time student or even a part-time student, you've got responsibilities, and you take on a volunteer position, let's say at the student division, in whatever subcom, you need to want that. It's got, for all of us at the SD, it's in our hearts. It's what we truly want to do, and it's the rewards that we get helping students. So find something that's best suited to you, that excites you and that fulfills you. And yeah, send me, well, you've got my email address. I can chat to you more about our different subcoms and mentorship program. And well, you've already applied, but yeah, it really does depend. But I can't give you hours exactly because it varies. Some
let me tell you this. You go to the subcom that you are interested in, and you tell them, I have this amount of time, and I'd like to contribute to the subcommittee, and then we'll accordingly give you the work that, you know. So tell us, I have an hour a month, and we'll be like, great stuff, wrap this up for us, or do this for us. So say how much you are willing to contribute, and we do that as well. Put those boundaries, tell us, I'm willing to do this, and then you are part of it. So it's not like a full-time job, or if you want to make it a full-time job, you're more than welcome to. But yes, and obviously being part of a subcommittee also, of a PsySSA subcommittee also looks very good in terms of your, you know, getting into a master's program, getting a job and those kind of things. So that I really would encourage you to join a subcommittee.
Thank you so much. That's been really, really helpful. I appreciate that extra info. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Leanne. I mean, yeah, I also to remember being involved with the PsySSA student division isn't only being involved with the SD. We are a part of PsySSA. So everything we do, we represent PsySSA. And we've got extraordinary members of council presidencies at PsySSA. So you have, in that regard, access to so many different people from so many different universities, whether it's students, whether it's professionals. So it's not just about what the student division can offer you, because once you register, whatever category that is, then you come back to PsySSA. You register within, like you would register in the student category now, you would come back to PsySSA, but you get to know people, and it does, I mean, for me with BPsych, it was incredibly beneficial, and just sort of reading books from that are written by PsySSA executives, PsySSA council members, has really opened doors for me as well, because I'm able to discuss that in an interview. And so, yeah, I mean, you're exposed not just to the students, you have access to us, you've got access to all of the subcoms, and you do in that way, of course, have access to PsySSA as well. So there are many different benefits. Mine are exponential. I cannot actually list them. I really can't. I knew this would, when I joined the EXCO 4 years ago, I knew this would be a life-changing experience. I had that feeling. I had no idea how much it would change my life, and it still is. It's not a stagnant process. It just continues to evolve and evolve. So are there any other questions or comments before we sign off? It's a little bit past 3 now.
Yeah, can I just quickly mention something in terms of psychometry? So I just quickly want to mention to you that UJ does have, I'm talking about UJ specifically now, is they have a certain amount of placements. Since COVID, a lot of the placements have dropped out, and I think they have 9 placements left that are like, that they have. So if you want to do the psychometry program, it would be very beneficial for you to find your own internship provider beforehand, because it's really going to increase your chances of getting into the program. So that's just something that I wanted to mention, that at the moment is something that's really important to do.
Thank you, Marguerite. Josie, any final comments from you?
No, I'm good. Thank you for having us.
Okay, then we'll end off there. Thank you to all of our participants. Thank you so much for all of your questions and for your participation. My email, you've got my email address. It's in the ads and it's in the chat. Please get in touch if you have any questions. We encourage your participation. You're welcome, Sue. We encourage questions, anything that we can do to help you and to assist you, we're more than happy to do. So look out on our social media for the YouTube link, or visit our YouTube channel. This recording will be available from next week, sometime next week. And thank you very much to everyone, and have a lovely weekend despite load shedding. It's your chance to read. Just think of it as a chance to curl up with a book, because that's what you want to do after you've been studying all day. Thank you so much, everyone, and take care. We'll see you at the next Ask Us Anything. And a special thank you to Marguerite and Josephine for taking this time out of your schedule. We really appreciate your expert advice so very much. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.